Well, the duck is back. The duck is back. And that's a fact. The duck is back. Been a couple of weeks. Been down the line, worked on my house again, or on our house, I should say. Back, and I've just spent the last, month waiting for these little pair of needle nose pliers to turn up to do this job inside this engine. They ordered them and then it didn't turn up. They had to order them again and then they finally turned up. And then I've got into this motor and found not other issues, but just slightly different setups from the last time I was in one of these. So let's have a look. I'll spin the camera and I'll show you what I'm up to. And we are looking so this is what we're looking at today, is this I don't know if I can show you. I probably can. I have a little pointer. Get a pointer. Point out. So this is where we're up to here, and you can see this thing here. So basically, to put the new oil pump in, I've got to get to a cog which is inside there. Okay, see that cog there, and then I don't know if I can do this, just bear with me. Right, and you can see in there on the end of that shaft this tiny little clip, and that was the one we were waiting the needle nose pliers to come. Got that, and I was like, oh yep, we'll just quickly go in there and do that. And as usual, whenever you think something's just straightforward, it's not. Let's make sure that thing's on where it is. Let's see if I can do that a bit. So here you can see a flat and a flat. There's a flat, two flats here like so, and that's actually where the special tool goes on there to undo that. That's actually a nut, right? And then so in my manual it's just got it as a nut, but of course in this thing it's not a nut. They've made it a bit special, and so I looked up on the net and I can get one for it's not too bad. It starts off at $67 for the tool, and then New Zealand, the exchange rate and the freight and blah 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 ends up being $140. And I'm quite happy to pay for that, but it means waiting another 3 weeks for the bloody thing to turn up. So I've decided to make a tool just so I can keep the job moving along, right? So I've made this special tool here. So this is a nut what I've made to go, well, it's a special socket what I'm making to go on there to undo that nut. And you can see it's a funny shape, and that just goes on there, locks on like that, okay? And then, let's see if this zoom, I don't want this zoom to be too, okay, no, you should be able to see it. And then I made this is an old, I don't know, it's an old spacer or something, like off a, yeah, anyway. It was chrome, so I'm picking it was off a Harley. Anyway, I've machined the ends, put a chamfer on one end, and then that just is going to slide over that, and I've made this about the same size as the shaft, and I've put some sandpaper down on the inside of there so it's not got any sharp edges. And then that's going to go on there like so, see? And then I've got a cunning plan, because there's so much componentry here and you don't want to weld here, like you just can't weld here. And then to weld those two together on the bench and then for it to come back, probably wouldn't line up. So my cunning plan is to actually clean these two off, make them absolutely spotless, and then I'm going to put a bit of probably a couple of blobs of that, like instant glue or something, and then I'll glue this thing to that nut down in there, right? And then that will actually hold those two together for me, and then I'll be able to take that off, clamp it in the vise, and then be able to weld it in two places. At least two places anyway. Probably usually I go around and, you know, stitch it at least in 4 places. So this thing here, so this is actually high tensile plate. I've made that out of high tensile, and I'll probably put some photos up as how I done it, but basically I drilled a hole through here and drilled it to 19mm, because these two flats in here are 19mm apart, and then I filed the two flats in, and then I got air tool and took the sides out and then filed it up to get the finished result, right? So anyway, waffling on, that goes on there, okay? And what that's going to do is just, well, I've got that round back to front now. It's going to go that way. And what that's going to do, because it's snug fit on that shaft, it's going to keep everything lined up, okay? And well, I took a bit of time to clean any roughness off that, and then to get the drive on the outside, I've got this, which you can see is an old socket, right? So originally it would have looked like a bigger version of this originally, and then I chopped the socket bit off and then put it in the lathe and machined it, and then that's going to go, when I've got those two welded up, then I'm going to weld that onto there, and that'll be the new the drive to undo that nut. Now, and I can hear some of you going, oh, look, you got to... I was sort of hoping that I could just take that nut off without removing the cam, but as it turns out, even with the hydraulic... I'll zoom out on that. Bear with me. Wrong way. Okay, well, let's do it this way. So I've backed the hydraulic lifters off, right? And even though I've done that, see, these ones are okay, but that one's okay, and that one's okay. But to line up the marks on the cam down here, this has loaded this thing up here ever so slightly. It's not much, it's ever so slightly. So to go any further, I'm not prepared to go any further. So I'm going to have to take the lids off, and then, basically I think I'm going to have to gut the whole side of this engine out. Anything less is going down dodgy street. So basically take the lids off, take the rockers out, take the tank off, unbolt these, take all the push rods out, and then take the lift the blocks out, and then I'll be able to just slide the cam out, which is going to make me even easier to get to that clip down in there. So I really bear with me. Looking at the sky. My God, I'm just getting to the stage I feel like this bike doesn't want to leave here. And these, you think, yeah, anyway, it is what it is. But it's, there's, I can tell you for a fact that there's probably a couple of you out there thinking, oh, you don't have to do that, you can do this, do it this way, and just, there's always a dodgy way of doing stuff, right? But what I've found over the years, and I'm getting on now, I'm over 60 now. So what I've found out is actually you're better off just, it usually ends up better and quicker to do it properly. It's the same with this tool that I'm making for that, to undo that nut. You could probably put a bit of warmth on it and undo it with a pair of crescents, a crescent or a 19mm. It may or may not come undone, might come undone, but then you've still got to torque it back up to the precise torque when you put it back together.